Good Monday. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. What we have here is America's 7 Deadly Sins. This was put together by Dr. Ed and presented this past week at Somerset Trust Company. We did a customer appreciation day of a number of different speeches that Ed gave, and this resonated. I presented this to my board of directors this morning, and it resonated. And when we look at this, is that this is the reason why most likely we can't expect significant GDP growth, because this is like a weight on the American economy. Let's look at these and go down the list. Federal spending, 25% of GDP, highest since 1945. Budget deficit, 10% of GDP, highest since 1945. Federal debt at 67% of GDP, highest since 1945. Workers, we have in the working force 58.1% of our population. This is the lowest since 1980. And what weighs on the Fed, the long-term unemployed, 43%, and that's of the total unemployed, most since 1930. When we're looking at people paying any income tax, that's been reduced down to 47%, lowest in modern era. And then finally, number 7, people accepting Fed benefits, 47%, the highest in history. So you think of these and you look at it from the standpoint of the impact to the economy, and Dr. Ed asked the question, is this what you think America is all about? But we always want to think of solutions, even in the face of this, because this doesn't go away very quickly. This is going to take some time to basically get to the point where it isn't a drag. And Dr. Ed believes that growth is the key. We have to have growth in GDP that outgrows these type of things and gets people working again. And so he talked about solutions. And when we think about solutions, is that we have to think differently and we have to think better. Some things will just come along in here. For instance, Dr. Ed brings up pent-up demand as a solution. That there's so much pent-up demand out there for cars, for renovations that have been put off over these past many years since the financial crisis began, that this can have a growth factor as people become more confident moving forward. When we look at another reason, we could look at the whole aspect of housing, perhaps hitting bottom in here. And with growing confidence, we could see that housing starts to come into its historic play in GDP. Another factor that we look at in here is the low interest rates that we have. And the Fed saying they're going to keep interest rates low through interest rates. Keeping them low through 2013. So when we look at this more from a textbook case, that lower interest rates at some point should help. When you look at it, it hasn't helped so far, but this could be a factor as we continue to see some economic growth in here. But the big one, and this one Ed presented out right in the midst in Somerset, Pennsylvania, where you have the Marcellus Shale find that stretches all the way from West Virginia through Pennsylvania and up into New York State, the largest gas find in history. And Ed and I believe that this is going to be the real savior in terms of the economy, is that this gas find not only has reduced the prices of natural gas across the country, but going into the future, that we need to have every automobile, every truck running on natural gas instead of on petroleum, to essentially, as Ed talks about it, when you look at GDP and you look at the import piece of GDP, if we can lower that piece, which is a negative to GDP, and replace it by having our own money not leave the country but stay here, that then GDP could increase another 4 or 5% per year. And when we look at those deadly sins, that essentially we can outgrow our problems here in this country. And when we think about that, it's not some sort of fuzzy thought into the future, is that the technology is here today to essentially convert trucks and cars over to natural gas. We have the plumbing system in already, that natural gas going to so many parts of the United States that can be tapped to develop a delivery system. So that in very quick order, if it was taken as a national push by private sector businesses to put this into place, this could become a reality and basically offset these significant problems that we're experiencing here in America, and ensuring that our future is going to be one that has significant economic growth. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Have a great week.